on. We're back talking about Jojos, but not
We
the
got hit-
Jojos you'd
It's
expect.
been 800,000 years.
We got hit by Bites the Dust and had to restart.
We did actually. Good one, good one, Bradley. You're primed for some JoJo speak.
Oh
But
yeah.
we're not talking about JoJo Lands, even though that's come out with 2 chapters now. We might, depends how our schedule goes tonight.
Yeah.
Regardless, expect a JoJo Land discussion because I really want to talk to you guys about it soon. So expect that in the very near future. But today, Bradley actually caught up on Jojolion in order to read JoJo Lands live, which is really cool. So we're going to talk about that. Bradley, what is your opening statement in regards to Part 8 Jojolion?
Jojolion, amazing fucking mystery that kind of almost stuck the landing on one foot.
Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah.
1000%.
God damn, like, I don't know. The whole setup and also the journey was incredible.
Yeah.
And, look, we're just gonna have to talk about it, so why not start with it?
Okay.
The main villain, what's the general consensus out there?
Oh, we're leading with Toru. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. God, it's so funny to think back to Joe and Willer being introduced to Toru, because that's around the time where you and I started doing our
monthly book talks. Yeah.
And we were just like, oh, he's probably gonna be like the triangle, and he's just a dude. Not realizing what it would escalate to.
Yeah, that first chapter where they meet him in the hospital, right? We had no idea. And as it kept going, Bradley, we were 1000% confident that he was the penultimate villain, not the last one.
That's the thing. I think there's a lot of, I really like a lot of the stuff he does do in this story.
Yeah.
Like I think he's really important for the themes. The problem is, I think he would have been perfect as the second to last villain.
Right?
Yes.
We'll get we can expand on that a little bit later because that'll go into its own tangent. I'm 100% confident. But it's he's introduced very late. Maybe the latest of any part villain. I think.
Yeah.
Because what is it in the 80s? He's introduced, and it's
and the thing is that there isn't like in part 5, like we always know the bosses. They're kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's we don't even know Toru exists as an entity, which is kind of cool. Like that.
To one degree, it's like
Yes.
okay, the rock humans are introduced early, right? And then we have Damo's group. But in between that, you're like kind of setting up the doctors. The doctors are kind of introduced halfway through, but I don't know if it's like it never crosses my mind, and maybe yours, Bradley, that like the head boss, like that there is a head boss of the doctor, and that they will be the final boss somehow. It just never felt that way until it was.
That didn't come my way across either. It was just like I just thought it was like the other branch, or it was like maybe like the step below the top or something like that, or just was like a weird community sort of deal,
So
To
me, how do you
him
feel
being-
about him?
Yeah.
It would have been such a surreal feeling reading this as it come out, and then like you get introduced to him, and then it's like, oh, he's gonna be like another like 4 or 5 chapter villain before we finally go face off with Jobin.
Oh my god.
Oh, you said it. You said it all right there. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like him killing Jobin to me is like, what if Vanilla Ice killed Dio and he was actually the main villain?
That's exactly it, right? Like he had the Vanilla Ice, like super tough, second to last boss that was gonna catch some bodies.
Yeah.
But no, it's just like Araki was just like, yeah, no, this is the guy. The fucking wireless charging phone guy, like groomer man, is the final antagonist.
Can you believe, Willer, that we got introduced to Toro in the midst of Death Stranding in the perfect time to make that stupid joke about the wireless charging stations?
That was a good time. Yes. Wow.
God.
To put in perspective, Bradley, that like. That is a 2-year experience with Toru in the back, over 2 years.
Oh my god!
With Toru on the back of your mind, and then the fight starts, and the fight itself is way over a year because it's like over 12 chapters, and Araki puts out about 10 chapters per year, so it's like he was just part of me and Joe's life for so long. It's weird.
Man,
And we're just like, every chapter for this fight, we're like, this is it. Next chapter, it's done. We're over. Every, like, it's, okay, so he got introduced. I wanted to look this up. Oh my god. Okay, I want you to guess the exact chapter he
So
gets
hold on,
introduced.
before we do that, the total chapter count of Jojolion's 118?
It's 100. It's 110.
110, okay. He was introduced, I want to say, 82.
I was gonna say like 84.
It's 81.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
that is a little under the 80% mark, probably like 75-ish% mark that he's introduced, if I'm doing the math right.
Yeah.
Oof.
It's
But there is stuff he does good in the story.
Yes, let's
and I
talk
want to talk
about the
about
good.
that.
yes. Yeah.
I think to talk about that, I got to talk about more of the story as a whole, because I think there's a few themes I kind of want to go through, but I think one of the most prevalent ones throughout the story is the relationship of characters with their mothers.
Yes!
Yeah.
Like almost every one of the primary characters has some interesting relationship with their mother.
Dude, it's like
Yes.
we're traveling back in time and
I
talking to
know.
Bradley in 2020. Because, like,
Yeah,
me and
I'm
Joe
like
have...
retroactively just getting into your convo.
Exactly, because me and Joe have very much gone over this, like, mother theme. This is really cool that you
Yeah,
want to lead with
But I think that is kind of a testament to like how well executed the theme was in the story, that I arrived at like the exact same talking point.
that. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
expand. I want to hear the Bradley spin on the mother talk.
So
Yeah.
like briefly, I'll just kind of go through a bunch of different characters and like what their relationship with their mother is like.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's Josefumi, who abandoned by his mother,
Yes.
didn't really want him,
Yeah.
and he ends up having a kind of a new mother figure, someone who's not even his mother but saved his life,
For Holly, yeah.
and
Yeah.
that kind of becomes his mother figure.
And there's, also, Kira is her
Oh,
son,
yeah.
so it's like...
Exactly.
It's
Mhm.
tougher to place, in my mind, that Kira-Holly relationship. Like, because Kira seems like a pretty scummy guy. Maybe not as scummy as we led to believe in the start, because Ojiro was kind of setting him up to look bad. But he also didn't seem very nice. So I wonder, like, how much Holly knew about her son. I don't know. But moving on.
Yeah, he's not like a good guy, but he's not evil either. Like
Yeah.
he does save Josefumi's life and shit like that. So
Mm-hmm.
then we also have then there's like Jobin, right, where him and his mother are closer than like any other two in the family.
Yes.
They're insanely tight. She went to jail to protect him. And I think honestly I got a ascend from zero worldview from her.
Oh, absolutely. That mother and child chapter completely
Yeah.
recontextualizes Jobin and Kato's relationship.
I think that's around the time like where Araki finally like hit his stride in terms of like what he wanted that story to fully be about.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's also right before the daimyo fight in the big flashback sequence. It's like the big reveal, you know?
Wait,
So-
Mother and Child's that early? I thought it was like close to.
Yeah, it's in summer. It's in Summer Lasts Forever. It's like right after that or something like that.
Is that real? Okay.
Yeah, because I remember reading it in like the big like chunks of volumes of reading it, and I got to that point and I was like, "Hey, Will, I just read this chapter. You should probably catch up with Jojolion." And because I was at the point of like almost like completing it.
Oh, you were ahead of me on Jojolion. That's
Yeah.
wow. This is crazy to think about, but okay.
Yeah, because you just were like, "I'm gonna wait until it like."
That is
stacks
what
up.
it felt like. We talked about it because we did it so much on Discord. That's what
Yes.
it was. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that Mother and Child might be one of the best like JoJo chapters
Oh yeah.
ever done. It's like it set up Jobin, who we get introduced him to that beetle fight of like, oh, he's kind of interesting but eccentric, very very JoJo villain family esque style.
He's in the let him cook tier where it's like Araki's doing something here, but we don't know what yet.
Yeah, and then we get introduced to that, and we're like, oh, this like sets up everything that Jobin really believes in and why he acts the way he does.
Yeah.
Right.
It makes his initial like everyday summer
philosophy
like a little more grand and like it makes it more serious and solidified. I feel.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's see.
Next one, Bradley.
Yeah, we have some other characters like then there's obviously Yasuho, who is, do people say just Yasuo?
I think it's Yasuo, like the lead character.
Exactly. So, obviously her mother also like didn't abandon her like Josefumi, but isn't really present.
Absent. Yeah, absent.
She just kind of goes through the motions of being a mom, like I pay for your room and give you food.
And the dad does abandon her too.
Yeah.
There's definitely some fathers in this part as well, but less prominent.
And then also extremely important, I think, to the eventually what I'm going to talk about is Toru and the Rock Humans in general just straight up don't have mothers. They get abandoned. The closest thing they have to mothers is a hornet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And the fact Rock Humans and Toru are more complex than the fan base gives them credit for, because Bradley,
they really are.
What would you say Toru's like motivation is?
Now, that's the interesting part. I feel like his motivation is the advancement of rock people.
Yes, okay, thank you, because if you go talk to an average JoJo fan, their answer is going to be Toru just wanted cash. And it's like, no. I feel like you missed that chapter that talks about the birth of rock humans and what a rock human was trying to say. Like, God himself has deemed this as a Class B human. They are a fallback for actual carbon-based life forms. Like, just picture that creation itself has designated you on the off path. You just exist as, like, a failsafe. And, like, he talks about, like, being the rock on top of the shore. Like, very flowery language. But the point is, he wants to be, like, this institution that stands the test of time and, like, kind of carves his own path in the world that, naturally, he's not meant, I think, to have that kind of path. Like, he's flawed humans, I guess, is a way to put it, and he's trying to, like, surpass that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're at least picked up on that, because it drives me crazy. Because, like, I don't love Toru, but I also feel like he gets done really dirty.
Very Pillarman-esque vibes was what I was getting from them at the very end there.
Like, less godly Pillarmen, because Pillarmen are like way superior to us. I think rock humans are just different, right? They have their positives, but they also have to hibernate. They struggle with making real human connections, stuff like that. So it's interesting in that
He's just
way.
like, fuck this hierarchy.
But his mom's a fucking hornet, Bradley. What's up with that?
But then there are actually some good mothers in the series too. Mitsuba, she was willing to risk it all, eat another fruit, which could just random chance kill her.
Yeah.
To save her unborn child she hadn't even met yet.
I could not believe how much those chapters elevated Mitsuba from my side character to one of the coolest characters in the park.
Like, contrast doing that, which might kill her to save her child she's never met, with Josefumi's mother, who saw her son drowning and couldn't be asked to save him.
Fuck, man. And I think this theme can also be expanded to fathers, because I think it's worth mentioning Johnny Joestar and Norisuke the Fourth, because like they're both very interesting characters. Where Johnny literally becomes a saint in order to protect his child, if I remember that story correctly, and is basically why Morio's fucked up. Because Araki never goes out and like properly explains like the walleyes and like what's your interpretation of the walleyes, Bradley, and stuff like that.
Oh, dude, I have no fucking idea. They're just they're the setting for me.
I think in the Rock Human background, Rocky in this whole like flyer language thing talks about how rock humans like migrate to places of power, places that are very similar to the devil hands. And I think the insinuation is that like when they buried the corpse there, it became a devil hand location or a devil's palm location.
Yeah, do you remember like the devil's palm from part 7, which it's like a holy location where stands are born? I feel like the walleyes are that, and Araki gets into very much like cursed lands and the power of the earth. Like he goes off on like a fucking tangent, but I feel like I get what he's going for though. I feel like it wasn't random and was kind of like beautiful when you think about it, like just the miracles of the land and cursed energies and all that. It's kind of cool, even if it's like weird, right?
I had an epiphany in the shower like this morning while I was thinking about because I was thinking about JoJo's and like what we were talking about. I don't know how this didn't dawn on me, but like the idea that like Jesus in the Bible takes on our sins, and then Johnny Joestar has to take on the sins or like the burdens of his son to save him, and then like the family's father has to take on the burdens of their sons so that they can live in like sinless or like without.
Yeah, that's like the whole Higashikata thing, and Norisuke is totally willing to do it for Tsurugi. Like Norisuke is one of my favorite characters in this part because he's so. Like, he's introduced, you're not sure what kind of person he's going to be, but he's just, like, a really helpful, cool dude who's just trying to run his business and keep his kids away from his crazy ex-wife.
And man, that's what's cool is he's, like, the last one I wanted to hit. He had a mother who just continued their family tradition of, I love my son, I'm going to take on the disease and save his life.
Yeah.
And because of that, I really think there's a big theme of, how a character's relationship with their parents shaped them, because Norisuke the Fourth, I don't know, he had that relationship with his mother. She was willing to sacrifice it all for family, and he is such a die-hard family man.
Yeah.
He's
kind of like that annoying dad, but the kids are like, Dad, stop it, you're coddling me. He's so exactly. He loves his family so much.
And there's such a subtle difference between him and Jobin in that regard, where Jobin's mother, in contrast, she didn't necessarily want to take on the curse for herself to save her son. She was willing to sacrifice a child to save her son.
Right.
And that really imprinted on him because she gives him this speech about, like, ethics be damned, you need to get ahead for the family. And sometimes you might even have to fuck up the family to get ahead. But you know what?
You gotta be a hustler. And yeah, Jobin clearly loves his family, but he just goes about it in a completely different way. Which, as you mentioned before, makes him the fucking perfect candidate for a final villain, in my opinion.
He would have been the perfect final villain. Thematically, he's opposed to the rest of the family. Not opposed to the rest of the family, but like, he's opposed. Ideals.
Yeah, and like, you have that great speech from Josuke after like his mom saves him, right?
Right,
like,
we need to touch on that for sure.
Yeah, where like it really kind of solidifies like, here's how these two people are completely opposites of each other. But we'll get back to that later, I think.
If I remember, because I mean that's the final mother relationship that we didn't talk about yet, which would be Holly and Josuke, because chapter 94 is probably my favorite Jojolion chapter, if not my favorite JoJo chapter. It's the one where Josuke is dying in the hospital, and he is saved by his mother, and then he drinks the Rokakakaka vial and gets like the cool eye patch thing, the rock eye patch. Like, and then the speech that he drops there, where he talks about like, look, I'm not really your son, and you're not really my mother, but you're my mother. Across time and space or whatever, I would do anything to protect you, because this bond is real for me. Does that not feel like the encapsulation of JoJo's as a franchise? Because the way he talks about it is like that familial love and through line that follows every single JoJo, and even across different continuities of stories. You get that through line, and it's like, I could have totally seen this being the final part if Araki wanted to after a chapter like that, you know?
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's like, it's a different person, it's a different life, but I'm your son.
Yeah. It was beautiful. And
I mean,
which gets to one of my biggest problems, but maybe we'll save the real gripes for later. If we want to talk about like but like, Joe, maybe you can talk about like what we were experiencing during those final arcs in regards to like, I don't know.
We were all I could think about was we were constantly trying to think of ways of like how they were going to circumnavigate Wonder of You.
Yeah.
And in addition, like, we were just like, pretty much what we've been saying is just like, Toru can't be the last guy. We have to deal with Jobin, and we have to. And the family has to like come to an agreement or like come together and like figure out what they're gonna do from now
we
on.
were expecting a family civil war, Bradley, and I don't know if that's the vibe you were getting, but that's like we were expecting a finale.
I thought it was just gonna be Jobin versus his father and Josuke.
So I was like, we were like, oh, I think Mitsuba and Tsurugi. We really were gunning for Tsurugi being a very powerful antagonist near the end, where his mother, and his dad would go against the entire rest of the family, and Joshu would side with his brother, and then eventually have like his heroic moment where he flips side instead of like whatever the fuck that was in the end in the final few chapters.
I think on that note, I even messaged you guys this. I was like, every time I have a moment where I think Joshu might not be a bad guy, the next page he like tries to rape somebody.
Let me suckle on your titties, mom.
Oh my god.
Cool, Joshu, keep it up, bud.
Yeah, good job, buddy.
I think we were gunning for that. I think also we were thinking potentially like because we also figured that this was like the first time where like stands were probably getting introduced to the family like mid like disease period, so Tsurugi's stand might just like overgrow itself and transform into something else entirely.
Yeah, like there was that whole thing about Tsurugi's stand evolving to like an uncontrollable form. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you caught on to that, Bradley. It was just like a little bit of a chapter, and we kind of had that in mind, where like something big was gonna happen to Tsurugi's stand. I'm not even 100% sure, because like something did happen, but I'm not even 100% sure how it evolved. It just seems like he was making illusions. Like, there's that chapter with the kid and the fence and, like, the pond. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no real explanation. I feel like Araki had plans for Tsurugi that he did not follow through with, and then he became an origami boy.
But, dude, here's where we put the bow on everything.
Okay?
When we transition from the themes of, like, oh, your upbringing, your parents determine how you turned out, and then it flips it on its head, and it's like, no, not necessarily, because there's also found family themes in the story, which we always love.
I love me a good found family, and this is a solid one.
Man, and you know, you mentioned part of it before, which is you kind of see this progression of Josuke, where I think even as late as the 70s chapters, he's like, you know, she's like, I don't know who I am. I'm not Josuke. I'm not Kira. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And he's like, Holly's not my mother. But then eventually he gets to the point where he's like, no, she is my mother, and I will do anything to get this to her. And what's amazing is that also kind of goes all the way back to Josefumi, and this is where it really clicked for me. Is that, you know, he had been mistreated and abandoned by his mother, and much like other characters who were mistreated or abandoned by their mothers, namely the rock humans, he kind of started going down a selfish path. Whenever him and Kira were captured, he was about to turn Kira over to save himself, and specifically the thing he thought about when he was about to betray Kira in that way was, I was abandoned by my mother, so like, why should I stick my neck out for other people? I'm tired of being abandoned by people in my life. And he gets saved by Kira, who had Holly for a mother. And then you know what? I think at that point, Josefumi no longer lets how his mother treated him affect his life. Holly has become his new mother. And it all wraps up perfectly in the final chapter, where Josuke gets to pick out the cake for his new father.
That was very cute. I did like that, and like I feel like the Josuke Norisuke dynamic is really well built out throughout the part. Like it's spread out, and it does a good job at showing that like they're coming to trust each other, even though they're weird stand users, and stand users are like, what does he say? It's like your asshole, you don't show it to other people.
Yeah, he's like, you wouldn't show people your asshole, so you don't just go around telling everybody your ability.
Thanks, Dad. Now that's some dad advice right there. It was very clear from back then, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hornet Boy, right, like, he has no real mother, he has no real family, and I do think it's beautiful that he sees a Hornet as he's dying, where it's like just kind of like a return to mother, return to nature kind of vibe with this finale.
As he's dying, he sees that image in his head, and man, another really cool moment for him that I think elevated him a few more steps up is while it was either during the fire or after, he's watching the estate, and a hornet lands on his hand, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I didn't know if he was going to look at the hornet and be like, "Oh, mother," but he ate it.
Yeah,
And
I forgot about that.
at first you're like, "Oh, that's such a JoJo's moment." A bug lands on him and he eats it. But I'm like, I think that's kind of important because it shows that rock humans have no attachments in this world. The closest thing they could have to family, he shows no reverence for.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, like none of the rock humans have any close attachments, which is like really sad. You'd expect one of them to like kind of break through their quote unquote DNA or programming and like have a successful relationship. But yeah, a Doobie Waz user comes to mind where I forgot, I think his name is iShow, where he had like his girlfriend and he goes to hibernate under his bed and he has like the cucking scene. And it's like
man.
even the guy with the girlfriend as a rock human can't get any luck. It's very unfortunate.
Now, here's what's really cool. We've been talking a little bit about the rock humans, but there's also the rock disease, which is weird, right? Because the rock humans, like, according to the story, they evolved that way.
Yeah.
Like, they have no real connection to humans. But then we also have the rock disease on the family that turns their body into pretty close to a rock human.
Trying to remember if there's a explanation for how the disease started. Do you remember, Joe?
It was in the flashback chapters. Like, it starts with Jonathan's son, because he had something to deal with, like, basically, like, Johnny's son, because he had the Saint's corpse, and because it basically was like designed to like redirect his misfortune. It was being redirected onto the sun and something like that. There's like a little,
okay.
Yeah. So like the disease gets redirected, and it's kind of
I thought
just trapped.
he didn't have the Saints Corp. Like he stole it from the U.S. government because he knew where it was. I thought.
Right. I think it's just it's just because
Do you
Johnny
know,
had
Bradley?
used the
Because I
Saint's
think you've
Corps.
read most recently. Do you know where it starts?
I think it either started with the son or the wife, and Johnny.
Oh, it might have been
because
the wife.
she's Higashikata. It's
Yeah,
like a
she's
Higashikata curse.
Yes, that's what
Okay,
it was.
so she already had it, so they probably just had it forever.
Yeah,
Or something.
Something like
Yeah,
that. Curses,
something like that.
Cursed flow. You know,
So-
This is a
calamity.
story about a curse.
This is calamity energy.
Yeah.
It's like, who knows where it comes from, but I think thematically it's kind of cool. I think it shows the potential of the Higashikata family to go one way or the other between ultimately the ideals that Jobin has versus what his father has, which is like, ethics be damned, I want to get ahead, and family is everything.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, the rock disease kind of puts them at a halfway point between normal humans and rock humans, and they do eventually break that curse. Which I think is really cool.
We're not gonna be like those dirty rock people. We're gonna be fleshy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the final battle itself as like a JoJo combat sequence?
It was kind of badass to see Spin come back.
Yeah, that was crazy. And like I don't know, it feels. I feel like Go Beyond is almost maybe the worst Deus Ex Machina of the story. I don't know.
It did feel a bit. It felt a little bit like a kid saying like, "Oh, well, I have an anti-force field bullet."
He literally had the anti-force field bullet. But like on the same way, it's like, well, okay, it's Golden Spin. Golden Spin goes against like causality as established in Part 7 because it's using like infinite energy to go through gravity or whatever pseudoscience is happening, right? The problem is, why does it have spin to begin with? Like, he's not someone who practices spin. Sure, he might have gotten the powers from, like, Johnny's body that's buried on the earth, and Josuke got the powers from the earth. It's too loose to really have a narrative, like, through line for me as to why, like, oh, your bubbles weren't bubbles at all. They were spinning threads, which doesn't make sense because if they held liquid, they couldn't be spinning threads. They had to be bubbles to begin with, but whatever.
So like it was still cool. It was still kind of hype. It was just a little bit like, come on.
Yeah,
Now,
like
if you want to talk about badass fights, or actually keep going because I want to talk about the best fight.
Wonder of You itself is like a very cool stand, very intimidating. The power is like maybe the most bullshit Araki has ever crafted.
It's
if you look at me funny, you have a chance of just dying, dude.
It's a pretty badass ability.
It's Love Train double plus ultra, basically, where it's just like, oh, you even have the intent of doing something bad. I'm already
But
gonna do something
there's
bad
that
to you.
thing that's super unnecessary where it's like, hey, Rai, your dad, like, it wasn't even major. Your dad, like, was looking for me or wanted to talk to me or, like, wanted to approach my land that he just fucking died in his orchard. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god.
I felt like it was trying so hard to make a link between Toru and Rai so Rai could die to, like, someone who he had a link to as opposed to just
he can have
dying.
his Caesar moment.
It didn't really work as a Caesar moment, I will say. But
no, Beetle Battle.
Beetle Battle was fantastic.
It is peak JoJo's.
It's so
it's like the ultimate non-battle battle. It's such a non-battle battle that it had been going on for about 4 chapters before Jobin was like, wait, has this been a stand battle the whole time?
I think Jobin was cheating the whole time.
He was using Speed King to fucking.
Oh my god, man, Jobin. That chapter where Jobin goes off and kills Ojiro was so cool. The fact that he even brought back Ojiro and his very niche "I stand above you to control you" stand, and it was actually effective, was just really cool to me.
That shit was. Cool.
This had some of the most Araki continuity of probably the most, because like so many characters came back. The only ones that didn't really come back were Carrera, like Hira and Josefumi's friend. And I guess that's fine. She struck me more as like a vagrant who could come back maybe. So
also don't forget Flashback Man.
So, Bradley, do you remember the notorious Flashback Man? Do you know who we're referring to?
Who is this man?
So, in the very start of the story, and I've been rereading very slowly. I had to take a break, but I'm like in the first few chapters still. But it's within those. When Josuke goes to, I think, the hat shop, he has the flashback of a man on a beach. And the man has like kind of like long pink hair in the colored version. And we refer to him as the Flashback Man because the entire fucking part, this guy doesn't show up. Who was he?
You want to know when he's going to show up?
Shut up.
We're going to get to the epilogue of Jojo Lands, and it's going to be all about him. Because the epilogue of this story, I don't know. We got to see the Higashikata family have their fun little cake scene, and that was perfect ending. But the first half of that chapter, I was like, Lucy, I love seeing you, but what are you doing here?
Hey, here's the Joseph Joestar, and he's fighting a guardrail. So imagine me and Joe. Imagine me and Joe who are reading the final part. We're like, how are we gonna get back to Jobin? How are we gonna wrap this up? And we get the news, Bradley, that it's ending in 3 chapters.
Oh my god.
And you're like, oh no. We're not getting to Jobin. This is the final fight. But also, it feels like it's going to end next chapter. So what are the last 2 chapters about? And you get the last 2 chapters about Lucy Steele versus a guardrail. What the fuck? It was... You can go back and look at the enthusiasm me and Joe had in that last arc. And we're like, yeah, a Besto's insect, haha, it's all funny, it's all fun and games. And then you get those last 3 chapters, and our energy is way lower. Because it's, as we're reading, I think we even read one of the Rayo Gaga chapters live, and we're like, Joe, what are we reading?
Which is better, this epilogue or Sleeping Slaves?
Oh, I would say Sleeping Slaves easily, but I know you... Joe
at least Sleeping Slaves fits into its story.
At least it has the characters of the goddamn story.
Yeah, there's no reason. I can't think of a reason why you have that in there. Like, I don't. Other than the fact that,
connects
like...
to Jojo Lands later. I don't know.
Because, like, the only thing is, like, the only reason it's in there is for Joseph to see the orchard and be like, weird shit's happening here. I'm gonna buy it and move my family out here because that's what happened.
Is it just to say that Toru's been on the lands for a long time? Cool.
Yeah,
I knew that.
I think maybe. I don't know, man.
I thought it was linking to Calamity or some stuff. I don't even know.
Nah, Araki was like, I'm gonna put Joseph in this chapter and everyone's gonna think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
We sure did.
It's like, oh, I got to fit in all the different JoJo variants.
Shit, I'm fusing Giorno and Jolene next part, so we need to figure something out.
Yeah.
Joseph. So the beetle fight was your favorite. Did you have any other favorites?
Dude, I think God, what was his name? Ojiro. I think that was a really good first stand battle.
I really like that one. It's very creative, and you can tell that Araki at the time had some neighbors that were really loud.
Probably.
You could always see his inspiration. Some of the other fights I really liked. I like the first one with Kei Nijimura, where she has like what's it called? Because it has two names. It had an old name and it got changed. Is it Born This Way now? The bike stand?
Yeah, Born This Way.
Yeah.
I really like that one. It felt really tense. I like the GPS talk, like Yasuo's powers awakening before they're fully awakened and they're talking to Josuke through the phone. That was really cool.
I thought Nijimura was going to be more important.
Oh, welcome to the JoJo fan base for the last 10 years. Because
Whenever she was introduced, I was like, oh, this story just got hot. And then I didn't see her for like 60
she's
chapters.
literally Josuke's sister, and in the family tree, she's Jotaro Kujo. If you like, she's in the same spot as Jotaro would be.
God damn.
I thought Kira was in the same spot as Jotaro.
I think it's Kei, if I'm not mistaken, but because like she's firstborn or whatever. But regardless, yeah, people were really expecting her to come back. I could take it or leave it, but the way that she came back just to die was like, okay, I feel like
She walked through a door and then exploded.
Hey, but when you turn the page and see Born This Way attacking Toru, that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also really like the Dubiwa fight. Felt really tense for me because
That's
a hot one.
that fight's
And
dude.
the finale of that fight is so sick.
No, okay, that was my favorite fight finale. I had other favorite fights, but that was my favorite finale.
Dude, that was so good. I was like, oh my god, Tsurugi's gonna become a villain. Because that was the coldest shit I think I've ever seen anyone do in JoJo's.
Oh, yeah.
At
Like,
the time.
hey, I made you think all these humans are buses, so you get run over by a bus. It's like the craziest JoJo's finale. It's not the coldest thing because we can't not talk about Vitamin C, which I think is still probably the best arc in Part 8.
Oh, yeah.
Great fight, horrific, awesome narrative during it, and the finale where Hato teams up with Josuke to murder her boyfriend in the broad daylight is so cool.
That was so sick. She just gets up, walks on the fucking side of the house, and just sends her heels through the roof to kill this man. It was fucking rad.
I was so excited for that motherfucker to die.
I know, he was so and like I like how he comes back, like him and the entire trafficking posse comes back in the later flashback when they first meet Jobin. I thought that was a nice touch and like nice continuity.
That's such a great way also to like kind of like book in like basically like the one half of your story, right?
Yeah,
because it's like you've been all the way up and then you realize that like this is kind of like the goons on the street and not even like the whole organization really, and it's just how we got to this one. I thought it was a great way to like kind of like bring everything around up until then.
Any other favorites? Ooh, I like the zombie one, Blue Hawaiian.
Oh, that's a great one. Dolomite's Blue Lagoon.
Yeah. Because especially the part where, first of all, Josuke uses a shovel to hit a woman in the fucking face, and it's like, I'm gonna pretend like she's alive, so Josuke is less of a psychopath in my mind. But what's really cool about that fight is the sequence with the baby, where the baby's going through the door, and Josuke's like, if I close the door, I will crush the baby's head completely. And he does it. He just can't bring himself to do it.
God.
It's really good. And then I like Ozone Baby, which is like the pressure fight where like so many parties, like, cause you got Tsurugi and Jobin, daddy son craft time. Like I think that's how Joe phrased it back then.
Yeah, yeah, son. Make a fire truck. Do it for dad. It's arts and crafts time.
That was such a cool fight because like you had 3 to 4 different parties, each with slightly different motivations, and it's kind of a Mexican standoff. And Jobin's the one who has to break it. He's like, I need the fruit, but I have to risk burning it to make them move first.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the fruit was such a good MacGuffin.
Yeah. And I love the time mechanic of it too, where it's just like it's going to be okay at this time, but
Bradley, do you have any other notes before I get into like some of the things that you might have missed on like that we had to deal with in the monthly discussions, including some of the weird plot holes that kind of plague the part?
I have a couple more notes, but while we're talking about villains and fights,
yeah.
I love the rock humans. How do y'all feel about the rock animal thing?
They're like they're cool world building. It's cool that there exist these animals, and I like the one that even though like there's 2 of them in the final fight, which I think is one too many. I think he should have pulled off one. But I do think the one that's like a pile of sticks is fucking hilarious looking.
Yeah.
Even if like the way it moves is completely indecisive.
Hold on.
Obladi Obladai or
Obladi Oblada.
No, it's not that one because I was like I could pronounce that one.
Da da da.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh my god, I just got lightheaded thinking of that fucking stick idiot. And then there's also Urban Gorilla's weird rock car thing.
Yeah. God. And there's also the dog. There's a rock dog.
Dude,
oh yes, good old Iwasuke.
No, I specifically made a note about that fucking dog. It was fucking funny to me. There's a lot of really funny moments in Jojolion, actually. I think like the in-between just character moments are hilarious, and one of them that made me laugh out loud was Tsurugi was like, hey, I named the dog. And they're like, what'd you name it? And he's like, Rocky. And then the next 2 panels are just Josuke and Norisuke just like, bitch.
There's so many good... I also like when it's in Beetle Tendency, but Jobin does something cool and he does like this rehearsed handshake. No. It's not it's like a rehearsed handshake, but I thought it was with Joshu, but I think it's actually with Josuke, and they're making fun of Joshu, even though like Joshu is helping.
Yeah. It
was something like that. It was really cute. How did you feel about Yasuo and Josuke interactions? Did you like their romance?
It was so romantic. Holy shit. I love them.
I thought it was very cute, very down to earth, you know?
And that's what's cool is, you know, her relationship with her parents, I think is kind of what spurs her on, because isn't it that she feels such a motivation to help Josuke at first because she's like, I don't really know who I am as a person.
She's a college teen, like a young adult, so it's very relatable.
And I want to talk more about Josuke too, because I think he's opposite in a lot of ways from both Toru and Jobin in really cool ways. Because, for example, one of the only principles that Toru lives by is that he's been on this earth for so long, and he's probably seen so many things come and go. And he's like, the only things that last forever are dreams and memories, which are like things that Josuke does not have. Which is just kind of a cool contrast between them. But the cooler contrast is between Josuke and Jobin, because Jobin's whole philosophy, the reason he does what he does, is he's like, for every single person, wherever you were born, that is 0 to you. And what you want to do is just end your life above that 0. You just want to climb up as much as you can.
Very Johnny Joestar, because Johnny is all like, I'm in negative, I want to get to 0. I feel like you added something important there. Jobin's like, I want to get as far as 0 as I can in my lifetime.
Yeah, like I don't know, Johnny was in the negative, and he's like, I want to get to the positive. And what's really cool is that he's obsessed with getting above that baseline 0. But the problem is, Josuke does not know what his 0 is, which is, I think, really important, because Jobin is obsessed with ascending beyond where he started, but Josuke he doesn't know what his ambitions should be because he doesn't even know where he's starting from. How does he know what to shoot for? But I think that's what makes the difference between them is because Josuke doesn't know what he's lost, he appreciates what he has, which is the Higashikata family in Yasuo.
Yeah, and that's a really poignant point. I agree.
So that was like, I think that was one of my favorite things about Josuke in particular. But I don't know. That's the majority of my notes. I want to hear what you guys are thinking.
Uh, hmm. We talked a lot about it. I wanted to bring the discussion since we're talking about Josuke. How do we feel about Josuke's personality and his stand?
He's so charming. The first few chapters, I loved him. Like the fact that he sleeps under the mattress and like I don't know.
He's very quirky, but I do feel for the second half of the story, his personality is very muted. He's very business oriented in the second half.
Yeah, he got really hyper focused on the mission, whereas before, I feel like at least once a chapter we got to see him have some kind of boyish wonder about learning something basic about the world.
And yeah, that kind of goes away, but it does also lead to goofy shit like him and Rai in a golden Lamborghini in a fucking tree. Why was it in the tree? And also, the Lamborghini is a good callback because he won it from Jobin, so that's just straight up Josuke's car. It's like so goofy. It's so funny, and I love it. In regards to Soft and Wet, I was just talking about it, and like I'm glad you seem to agree, Bradley, because people don't like to criticize Araki, and it's like if I say that Araki sometimes writes himself in a corner with a power and then nerfs the power stealthily. People are like, what do you mean? What do you mean he nerfed it? He just didn't use it anymore. It's like, okay, sure, but think about it as a writer. Instead of writing a bunch of enemies that your power doesn't work on, the more creative writer would write enemies that surpass your power and you have to get creative and work around that. But the way that he handles Gold Experience and Soft and Wet is like, I'm just gonna make them stop doing the broken shit, like, for no reason. I don't know if you noticed that, Bradley, as the part was going on.
No, yeah, definitely. And it's like, he really did have to kind of nerf it a little bit because...
The upper limit seemed absurd of that ability.
It doesn't make sense to be creative if you can already do just about anything. Like, it's way more impressive to read a story where you're doing amazing things with a limited tool set.
Which is why I think he excels the most with characters like Josuke and Jojolion. Because it's like, okay, their powers aren't going to break anything, so I'm going to get creative. And boy, does he, because those are the two Jojos, and even Jotaro, honestly, even without the time stop, that use their powers with more creatively than you'd ever expect. But then you get to someone like Giorno, who uses the life power very creatively. But do you remember in the start of the story where, like, hey, if Giorno punches you, you experience time slowly, and if you attack one of Giorno's animals, all the damage gets reflected to you, including stand abilities, because when Act 3 attacks it, Koichi gets heavy. So if Giorno just surrounded himself with a bunch of flies, he would be immortal to everything. But he just doesn't even attempt it. Like, Araki doesn't even address, like, he tried it and it failed. He just stops trying. Like, the reflection power never comes back. And
yeah, I think the part 5 example is like the way more extreme version of this.
I don't know because it is because he
actually uses it for a while. Because part of that too is like we don't see Giorno use his powers in a fight for like 4 or 5 arcs because it's all the other.
I mean, at that point, the power's already gone. He only uses those 2 powers up to the Black Sabbath fight, and then they're gone forever.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that, like, we get to that, and he doesn't have a fight by himself anymore.
After Vitamin C, and even honestly a little bit before, Josuke's powers become, hey, my bubbles can transport objects and explode now. And it's like, damn it, I wanted to see more friction and, like, eyesight and smell, and he even steals the liquid from that lady, so she has to, like, go drink water so can escape the hospital. It's like... I can't remember him doing anything super interesting after the halfway point. And Bradley, you've read it more recently, so like I don't know if anything sticks out to you as like the coolest Josuke power moment near the end.
Oh, I don't know about near the end, but I thought it was kind of badass when he was fighting the twins. I think he had like trapped some I think he had trapped both like gas and fire and bubbles, and he's like, "Look, I've already won. If you attack me, you're gonna die." But he didn't say how, and they're just so cocky that I think they try to attack him anyway. And he's like, "Bitch, I told you."
And then he fights them hand to hand, which is just hilarious.
Dude, no, that's the thing. When he was fighting him hand to hand, I was like, I didn't know this motherfucker could fight like that.
Josuke got fucking hands, dude.
He really does.
In a fist fight, I'm inclined to say he would even beat like some of the hulking JoJos from the past.
I was about to say, there's some skill there.
But yeah, like, again, that's before the halfway point, because that's the mini arc before Vitamin C. So after that, like, the coolest thing that I can remember is when he sneaks gasoline into Urban Gorilla's rock animal car. But that is just transporting liquid, and he makes, like, a cool water shield, which was, like, he breaks a bunch of water bottles and makes a cool bubble shield. But again, that's not, like, anything close to the first few usages. So that is a bit of a bummer that he went the Giorno route with his power again, because his power could have done so much more. But I could see why it would maybe be difficult to constrain what he can do, because like he could steal the light from a light bulb and completely put the room into dark, or steal, I don't know, like the color off an object and make it clear or pure white or something. Like, stealing properties is... You could steal gravity from a person, and he starts floating away. It could get insane.
That's the thing, like, the first time I saw him steal friction, my mind just started going nuts. I was like, oh my god, what can you do with this?
And so did Araki's, and it let us...
And he was like, you know what, maybe not the best idea.
Let's not. And how did you feel about Yasuo as a character and her powers too? Because I really want to talk about her as well.
I just really loved her. I thought her stand was a good support stand. I like her relationship with Josuke, and man, like I could kind of feel her pain whenever she finally reconnects with Josuke, and she was so happy about it that she's teared up. But at that point, he's like hyper focused on this mission of finding the fruit. And it's like, she connects with him again, and it's like, oh, I gotta run off with this Carrera girl. And she's like, well, fuck. And then they connect again, and it's like, okay, well, I gotta run off with this plant appraiser. And it's like, Jesus.
And it is funny, though, because Josuke, in the second half, I feel like he hung out with Rai more than her.
So... By the way, Rai is such a good Joe, bro. I thought he was very entertaining.
Joe really likes him too. He's solid for me. I never fell in love with him, but he definitely has his moments. I really like when he pushes. I believe he does this. Doesn't he push Yasuo off the lifts in his introduction arc? Holy shit! Yes.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, if she dies, we could get away. So it's pretty savage.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like his death is pretty like. It's like again
very forced.
Yeah, it felt a little more forced than usual. I don't know why. Joe, what else? What else you got? We're hitting most of the topics here. We only got like probably a few left.
What did you think of Milagro Man?
That was a really cool one too. It was kind of weird to get a Joshu centric arc, but I liked it.
That was a really funny arc, I thought. Just Joshu with all this money trying to get rid of it.
I really liked it, and it gave me false hope for where his character was going.
Yeah.
Because I guess if we're winding down, it is time to start some of the gripes that I have. Yeah. Because if you go back, Jojolion was on track to be my favorite part, and I said it multiple times when me and Joe would record one of these. And I think, Joe, you were really liking it too, right?
Yeah.
Like, we were kind of enamored with it for a good stretch there, up until that final arc. And the reason was, and I think Araki can't really handle a mystery story like this, because he made really good answers to a lot of the mysteries, but then there's also a lot of the mysteries that go nowhere. And you might not even realize some of these, Bradley. For example, in the beginning of the part, Josuke, Yasuo, and Joshu get bitten by something invisible, and that's what awakens their stand.
Oh my god. I forgot.
I don't even have to reiterate that goes absolutely nowhere, and I have no answer for what the fuck that was.
Holy shit, I forgot about that.
Then there's the flashback man, who we've talked about, and I think he kills me the most. What me and Joe I think is that he's a proto design for Jobin, because he's introduced before Jobin, but it also doesn't make sense because Josefumi and Kira didn't deal with Jobin.
I think he might have been a pro design of Daimyo. I think, or because that was the person that like got them executed and killed.
That's crazy to me. That handsome ass flashback man would turn into Daimyo. I think that Josuke needs to get his fucking memory checked because I don't know.
Well, I mean, characters don't go through so many like different characters. Like fucking what's his name? Funny Valentine was this pudgy short dude until like
fat funny to skinny funny. It's still like the same design. He just goes from fat to hot. It is it's not even close. It's like Anasui turns into a woman and is 100% closer in design than these two. Like, Anasui transitions sexes between chapters, and this is way different. Like, it's...
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Dire.
I feel like it definitely was supposed to be someone, like, related to that flashback or what led to them, or, like... Because they hadn't interacted with any Josuke's new family. Yeah.
Oh man, we're back to Joe not being able to pronounce any of the Japanese names. That was my favorite running theme of our talks.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're in America now, Joe, so you'll have an easier time.
Good old Hawaii.
Good old Hawaii.
Nothing Japanese there.
But then, like, some of the most damning ones come near the end. And shout me out if you notice some of these, Bradley, because... Remember that cool timer with the fruit?
The timer.
There was a stretch where it's like 5 days before the Rokakakaka ripens. Yeah. That timer, first of all, didn't align with anything. Because, like, even as the timer was, like, supposed to hit 0, it didn't align with any plot event, as I recalled. Like, it was building up to nothing. But I think the most frustrating thing is, do you remember the flash forward where you're like in chapter 80 or something, and it's like 13 minutes before the Rokakakaka, and Tsurugi, this is when it's talking about Tsurugi's ability that's going to awaken, and then you have this flash forward to Tsurugi in the kitchen talking to Joshu and Hato, and he goes upstairs and there's a body bag that he's dragging, and we're like,
I do remember that.
What the fuck happened? Did Tsurugi murder someone? Whose body is this? That leads nowhere. That is just a straight up drop plot point.
I'll say, and that probably fed y'all's expectations of like a family civil war or something.
Yeah.
Oh, Bradley, that is the understatement of the century.
Yeah, because like later, before that, like a few hours beforehand, like Josuke nearly kills Norosuke. So we thought that's who was in the body bag.
Josuke or Jobin?
Jobin, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And like that Jobin confrontation with Norosuke was fantastic. Like that panel where Jobin is darkened as the entire family realizes what he's done is one of the best things Araki's ever drawn. Man, that final arc, for all like the weird things that might happen in it, I think it has maybe the best art Araki's ever done. Like some of those double spreads, like the one where Josuke is holding the Go Beyond bubble in his finger right up to like that. It's like an unfinished Go Beyond bubble, but it's like right up to the Stan's face, like the head doctor's face. It looks so cool. But the last drop thread that kind of soured me on the ending very heavily is that they do not address the Holly situation. They set up this amazing like finale with her in 94, and then they don't address it at all. It's just like, okay, we cured Tsurugi and Josuke is part of the family, and then I guess Holly died without ever recovering her memory is the end. Like it's that like, you know how Marco's explained to die from a cold in part 7, and you're like, well shit, that sucks. At least
you know what's gonna happen. She's not gonna be mentioned at all in part 9, and then the epilogue, it's gonna be like, also Holly got cured.
I would cry, which is why, Bradley, you might have been hearing me say that, like, I really need part 8 to connect to part 9.
There's unfinished business.
It feels like there's a very glaring unfinished business, and like part 8 even in the end sets up like, ooh, the islands of New Guinea, like, why is the fruit from there? What's going on from there? I don't know if you got, like, the sense that New Guinea is really mysterious.
And even Josuke is like, I think Yasuo was like, what are we going to do? Like, you can't help Holly. We don't have the fruit anymore. And he's like, well, you know, there's probably some of that fruit out there somewhere else. Like Hawaii, maybe.
The problem is, even if there is that fruit anywhere, it's not going to be the grafted one that has no side effects. So it's like...
Yeah, that was like a one of a kind.
Unless they find a way to regraft it, or there's perfected ones in the island. But Bradley, we may never know. It might just never happen.
We may never know.
No.
Which is why when, like, a slight spoiler alert, when I saw who the Japanese man was in Jojolion, like, haha, very cool, but I'm not gonna lie and say that I was happy about it.
Can you imagine if it was Josuke and he was, like, on the search for the fruit?
If it was Josuke, Part 8 would immediately jump up spots retroactively in my list.
I'm telling you.
But that is the main gripe that I wanted to, like, the little rant I wanted to do, because, like, when you're reading it monthly, some of these problems hit harder. Because, like I was saying, it's my favorite part until the last arc. And I think that last arc, where would you rank the finale of Jojolion, that entire, like, 12-chapter stretch, among all the JoJo finales? Which ones would you put, like, above or below it?
Oh my god. Dude.
Tough question, but I'm putting you on the spot. It's ranking time.
Either way, it's below both part 7 and 6.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair. I think, yeah.
I think I might, I don't know which goes above 7 or 6, but then right below those two, I'd probably put 4, and then 3, and then probably this one.
That's...
Well, no, that's not fair. I guess I kind of shat on Battle Tendency with that ranking, because it's actually a badass finale.
Yeah.
I think I was...
Like, Battle Tendency has the best Deus Ex Machina. Out of, like, I think 4 of the parts have Deus Ex Machina's endings. But Battle Tendencies is like, hey, we set up that if the stone gets hit with a lot of hum on, it's gonna go crazy, so that erupts the volcano. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I think my ranking of the parts was getting in the way of my ranking of the finales.
Yeah, we're gonna... You know what? That'll be a perfect way to end it. So, okay, I agree. Joe, where would you put it? The finale itself?
I think 7's at the top for me, followed by 4's, followed by 6.
I didn't even mention 5's finale.
Yeah,
I'm guessing you would put it below it, alongside 1.
Yeah.
I would put 5 and 1 near the bottom. So I think it'll be like, probably like, there's 8 parts, so it's probably like 5th or 6th, maybe, in finales.
3rd or 4th to last, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's other ones I feel... Now, that being said, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the middle of that finale that's, like, super great. But in terms of, like, what it means for the entire story, I think it's very
even
low.
The plane door sequence is one of the most exhilarating sequences in all of JoJo's.
Yeah, you're like, ah!
Bradley, what did you think of, like, the plane piece that falls off the plane and is gonna land on Yasuo? Did you like that, like, plot beat?
It's like
I thought that was pretty fucking cool, actually.
That was... Yeah. Imagine month by month, and you're like, okay, but is Yasuo gonna get hit? What's gonna... Like, it was crazy, because it's like 3 chapters of setting that up. Also, the 3 chapters where she's dying in the bathroom, like...
Oh
there's
my God.
a lot of cool shit there.
The page turn of you turning the panel and Mitsuba closes the toilet lid on her is like...
Yeah, because she gets like... Yeah, that was insane. No.
Oh, wait, dude, and Joshu wanting to fuse with her, and then after they fuse, he's like, wait, no, not like this.
Baby arm, never gonna touch a woman, Joshu, as is intended. Oh, man. When we're talking about it, I think I would put it 3rd to last, with 1 and 5 below. Because, like, the thing is, like, 5's fight is really boring to me. Like, chasing down... Silver Cherry Requiem with people's body switching, it's not really that cool. In my
1 goes
opinion.
above 5.
Oh, no, yeah, actually 1 might go above 8. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing bad about 1's ending to me.
It's phenomenal, really.
Yeah, the only reason it goes that low is because the series hadn't been going on long enough for there to be enough context to do, like, an amazing finale.
I do think 8 would beat out 1. Yeah, I'd put it 3rd to last, which I think is close to where you and Joe would put it. Now, where would you rank it? Where would you rank Gappy, as we call them. I don't know if you know this. A lot of people call Josuke Gappy.
Dude, I haven't heard y'all say that name in like a year.
It's either Gappy or Josuke 8 or Jo2K. But where would you rank him among the JoJos?
Like, as just like an entertaining character I love to see on the screen.
I mean, how else could he? Yeah, like, is he like in
just
your
like
favorites?
I like this character.
Favorites or writing or like just the full package. Where does he go?
I think he is below Johnny, above Jolene.
He's your second favorite.
I really, really like him, actually.
Oh, damn. I'm hoping I can like him that much on my reread. Because I do think the Holly thing and just him being like very focused in the second half hurts his initial placing for me. Joe, where would he go for you?
Is he above Jolene, though? I don't know.
Jolene clears Joe's.
Jolene's pretty fucking good.
Jolene's fantastic. Where does he go for you, Joe?
I think...
Because we've probably ranked this before.
So...
But things change. Like this is why I love talking about JoJo's. My opinion changes like every month.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the thing is like, okay, so Johnny's number one, obviously. That's like a no contest, right? We both hit start. We both quit at the same time in Super Smash Bros. But like the contender up there for me is Jotaro, because I like Jotaro's kind of like sequencing of who he is throughout the entirety of the series.
His character arc is like really good, actually.
I love Jotaro, man.
I can't believe I live in a world where I like Jotaro, because I used to shit on him so much on the internet.
That's the thing. Like he I don't know. I used to think he's so basic, and now I'm like, maybe he's not that basic. He's actually pretty cool.
I think it's the Superman effect, where it's like, yeah, he's boring. That's the best part.
Yeah, like that's the point.
And that's the thing is like, if I just look at the Jotaro part in part 3, he's much lower than like I think the other JoJos. But if I look at Jotaro the entirety of like his lifespan,
you gotta look at the entirety, because the same applies with Joseph.
Yeah.
And Johnny, because Johnny gets some cool shit in part 8 too.
Yeah. Oh God. I think I think actually Josuke 8 is 4th for me. I think with Jotaro and Joseph being above him.
Nice.
Yeah, because I really like Joseph in part 2. I really like him in part 3 and in part 4, and then Jotaro the same thing. Like there's a good.
Jolene
I like the mirror.
Below him.
Yeah, I think so.
Tough crowd for my girl.
I know she's great. But...
If we're strictly talking character design, I do think Jotaro is the reigning king. That shit is just iconic.
I would say I think Josuke looks fucking flames. The tennis shoes
are hard on, so
the tennis shoes with especially when he has the rock eye patch. Goat. He's the goat.
He's kind of drippy.
Me and Willa were freaking out when he got that rock eye pass.
I know.
Because you're doing a design change in the last quarter of your arc, and you have like.
And it's like if you draw a end of series Josuke in a lineup with all the other JoJos, you're immediately spoiling one of the biggest twists in the series in the part, which was kind of nutty. But then like parts of it flake off, so he just has like those little pieces, and it's like still pretty cool.
Yeah.
For me, For me, I think he's also like bottom 3. I think he's above Jonathan easily and above Giorno. But I don't think he goes above like, because first of all, you guys are shitting on Josuke 4, everybody's best friend, the coolest guy. He's probably my favorite. That and Johnny. Oh, yeah. And then Jolene, of course. They round out like a very tight, close 3. And then there's like a bit of a gap with Joseph and Jotaro, and probably Josuke there. That's what I would go with. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but probably not. Maybe Jodio's on my mind, and I'm already thinking of him.
Nah.
We'll talk about it. No Jodio talk today. No Jodio talk. We're going to save all of our Jodio energy.
So how do we classify the actual best character, Jobin, in the grand scheme of...
He's so good, man.
If Jobin was the final antagonist, which is now time for the antagonist rating, Jobin would be number 1.
Yes.
Easy.
But Yeah, no, like he
Because-
would surpass Kira and Valentine.
Like even his introduction was perfectly executed. It's like you've been introduced to this entire family except for the mysterious oldest son.
bros.
Yeah. And like he's the perfect thematic foil, and he would be the most morally gray because he's doing it for his family. It's not even that bad. He's just murdering a couple of people. Like compared, if we're gonna power scale evil, he is easily the nicest.
To Valentine?
Compared to Mr. I'm gonna make every country bad, and Mr. I'm going to speed through time, and Mr. I'm going to take over the world. Like, no, he's the least evil by far. Toru is still the least evil, but I actually think Toru is bottom 2. If not last, I think he might be last.
The only person I might maybe put him above is Diavolo. Even the Pillarmen go above him, I think.
Oh, Cars is boring, but also, like, Cars has that little flashback where they talk about how he's, like, the genius of his race, and they did not want him to, like, reach perfection, so he killed his entire tribe. I was like, that's kind of raw, at least. Like, it's badass.
No, it's like, maybe the Pillarmen don't have the most complex motivations, but they put on a good show.
They put on a good show. And the scene where Cars puts on the mask and is facing the sun, like, proudly is one of the coolest visuals in, like, most of it's one of the coolest JoJo visuals, period. It's like when Dio's walking up the wall is like a way to symbolize how above everything he is. So I think, and Diavolo is like, at least Diavolo has Doppio attached to him, and I love Doppio.
That actually is really cool, you know? And he didn't get introduced at the very end of the story.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. So it's like
his design got introduced, not him.
He might be last, and I still defend him because I think people don't give him enough credit.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Willer. Like, it's just he shows up too weirdly quickly for the ending, and it kind of sticks around for way too long as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and maybe it didn't feel that way for Bradley because I don't know, though, because when you saw him, Bradley, you also thought he wasn't the final villain until near the end, I'm guessing.
That's the thing. I saw him and I was like, okay, this is our last like 4 to 5 chapter fight.
If Toru got introduced closer to like after Vitamin C, I think it might be different because then you could like see him.
There's just not enough there. Even if you made the love triangle deeper, I think it would just have devalued Yasuo as a Jobro. Because Yasuo is like one of the best Jobros, if not the best one.
The mere existence of Jobin means Toru just can't work as the final villain for me.
It's true.
Honestly, though, and I don't know if this is a hot take, Tsurugi would also have been a better final villain than
That would have also been a better final villain.
Because, he's also linked to Jobin, so Jobin gets dragged in by default. I don't know, man. And finally, let's close it out. Bradley, what is your current part ranking?
Okay.
The hottest button question.
Bro, part 7. Come on. Like, let's go.
The GOAT.
Part 7, and so my recency bias makes me want to say part 8. I think it's part 6 though.
Okay.
I think part 6 comes after that. Then I might put part 8. After that, I might put part 4, part 3. I think, man, I feel like part 5 might have gone down my rankings. I feel like part 5's after that.
Yeah, it used to be a little higher for you, I think.
I think it used to be higher, and then 2, and then 1. And that's the thing, like, again, there's 1 isn't bad, it's just not as exciting as the other ones.
Well, it's like, the truth is 2 isn't, 2 is actually, like, very solid.
2's badass.
I think for all of us, I think we just, like, stand combat so much more.
I think that's all it is, dude.
Yeah, like, it's just a, which is weird, because if Tyler was here, he would be like, you guys are lame, and Hamon's the coolest.
Hamon.
I think he'll like spin when we get to spin. Joe, what on today? I know our opinion. Like we've had some time to let things simmer. What are you feeling today?
Let's see. It is Shocking Twist, Part 7's number 1.
Wow, my boy.
About 3 interspaces after that.
Hot damn! Joe hates JoJo's. Ironically,
I posted this to Willer. It's just like we were talking about like our top 100 media. Like JoJo's and Speedball Run would probably be like a fairly different like set of tins. They
get like Steelball Run and all of the other ones get a different entry.
Kind of, yeah. But maybe not 3 space bars, like 2 space bars.
Oh, that's way better.
Or two enter.
Yeah, I can live with 2 enters. Like 3 is a little disrespectful, I think.
I'll give you.
You're right.
Two tabs.
I'll give you 2, but it has to be single space text. Okay.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I think after that, in an actual surprising twist, I think it's part 4. Because I've been rewatching part 4 lately, and more it's just like, oh, this is just a really tight part in terms of like all the characters.
It's yeah.
I think after that is part 8, because even though I didn't like the ending, I think everything else that happens in that part is like super great.
Good.
And
it's so good.
I think
even if the mystery, like Bradley said, lands on 1 feet, that's a good foot it landed on. Strong step.
Yeah. It was very good. Like Jobin hard carries a lot of that plot sometimes, I think.
I don't know. I actually don't, because like Kato, Norisuke,
that's true.
Even Tsurugi, like Ikata, like they all get like a time to shine.
I take it back. You're right. Everyone actually completely opposite. Jobin's my favorite of that part, but I feel like everyone like really pulled their weight in that part.
It's the best in Sabo cast, easy, like free.
Yeah, like it really like emphasized like that community aspect, whereas like part 4 I think really has a good mystery to it, at least. Part 8, though, it really felt like these people live together and they live in this town.
Even the villains come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I mean, part 4 has that too, but
so part 8
as third.
Is third. I think after that is.
It's tougher here.
Yeah, it is. This is like the toughest part.
I'll help you out. You know what? I would say logically it's 6, but you would put 3 here, I feel.
That's what I'm thinking. I think it goes 3 and 6, but like they're basically on the same ranking, I think.
Same tier.
For me. Like they're basically like they both share 4th place.
Fair.
So then in 6th place would be part 2.
Okay.
And then in 7th place would be.
Come on, Joe. Don't do it that dirty.
No, do it that dirty.
You can't.
I think I have to put part 5 here.
You have
because
to.
At least I would at least rewatch part 5. I don't think I could suffer going through Phantom Blood again.
There's some unforgivable stuff in part 5, man.
There is, like,
you guys are over hating. I think Joe has corrupted your mind. It has.
No, he turns the ice into a dish.
Do you remember? Remember we were watching that live and we all had to pause. And hold the fuck on.
None of us. God. Okay, hold on. We should watch part 6 live because I don't think me or Bradley have watched part 6 yet.
I've only watched like the first few.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh, we were watching some of it, Bradley. In the future, there will be chances, and we should take it.
Also, like the episodes I have seen, where I was digging it.
Yeah, but like it was, but I got one of my favorite moments. We were sitting there. It was like after work or during our lunch period, and we were sitting there, and we went, "Hold the fucking phone!" And Will and I had to bring up the fucking manga chapters.
We brought up the chapter because we couldn't believe that Ghiaccio. I'm not even gonna finish the sentence. It's so stupid. Nothing.
Yeah.
But the fight itself is incredible. Like the fights in part 5 are
awesome.
Really good. Like they're super action-packed fights.
They're great fights. The train fight is one of the best fights I think in JoJo's. It's so good.
And like they may not get like as weird. Like the powers are more straightforward, maybe as like action powers, but they're used super well.
And that's fine. But don't forget, Trish made a dinosaur footprint, and then that was never brought up.
Whatever, man. Compared to every other part, the dinosaur footprint is...
Wait, is that real, Joe?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Do you remember when she, like... It's right before the fight where she gets Spice Girls. She's standing on the ground, and there's, like, a weird dinosaur footprint on the ground to show that, like, she's melting it or, like, softening it. But, like, it's, like...
No, this was right after the train fight because they had to save Trish, and she's like in the dirt, and like he looks over, and there's just a dinosaur footprint where she was. It's
foreshadowing to her stand, and it's like the stand would not make that shape. But compare that to the flash forward, and I will take the dinosaur footprint 1,000 times.
Fair enough.
That's fair. That's fair. I think I yeah.
So that leaves one at last.
Yeah.
So for me today,
let's go.
4-7 in a tight race. That'll.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
4 will probably always edge it out because it's just.
Like, come on.
It speaks to my brain, but 7 is peak fiction.
Yeah.
Genuinely like insane. I can't
It's
wait until
unreal.
that's animated. And then it gets so tough. I think 6 comes as third.
Yes.
And then I've put 8 everywhere. I've put it in my bottom 3. I've put it in this spot. You know what? Today it goes in this spot because Bradley reignited how much
Yes.
the themes, say whatever you say about the plotting, the actual themes in this part are kind of absurd. They might be the best ever.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
They're,
yeah.
they're way stronger in this part than they are in.
They
7.
might be stronger than even 7, and thematically.
They're very present.
Yeah.
And we didn't even
Yeah.
touch on all of them.
Yeah.
Like the
mean,
identity stuff between Josuke and Yasuo. So we'll put it here. We'll put it on 4th today.
Nice.
But
Nice.
Cool.
Tomorrow, part 8, you fucking wait.
Yeah, boy.
I'm actually thinking my reread will make me kinder on that finale, and it'll be solidified here. But I don't know if it's gonna go above 6. 6 has like
Yeah.
messier fights, but like is just a much tighter, full
I always
story.
think it's funny that Bradley loves part 6. It's his favorite part.
But that's
part
the
6
one I complained about the most.
It is, and there's I can't for the life of me remember
We'll never remember.
what it fucking was. But there was literally a part where Bradley's like, "I'm going to drop the series because this is the worst thing I think someone has ever written."
I feel like it was in the second half of part 6.
It
somewhere.
was. It was in the second half. I think it was part of like the flying bacteria fight.
No, but it wasn't the rods. We talked about the rods, and Bradley hated
I don't
it.
think it was the rods.
I hated the rods.
Yeah.
No, actually, it might have been the rods
could've
redirecting
been.
heat and making sicknesses happen. And Bradley was like,
Yeah.
"This is not how it works."
It's pretty
Yeah.
dumb, dude.
Oh my god, dude, we laughed so much. But then
Part
he's like,
6, God.
like he's talking to us about it as he's reading it back then. And then he gets to the end. He's like, "Guys, I'm tearing up. It was the best
know.
thing ever." We're like, "Whoa, wait, what?"
Dude, that's the thing. Part 6 has an amazing final stretch to me.
Highs and
Yeah.
lows, baby. Highs and lows.
JoJo parts.
And then I think so. I put it 4th. I think 5 and 3 would share a spot here. And I know,
Interesting.
5 is a little high here. I think 5 has the better journey and the worst ending, but 3 has the worst journey among the two. But the ending of 3, even with the Deus Ex Machina, I can also stop time. The emotional beats, the hype beats, part 3 ending fucking hits. If it just does.
It's also got the Darby brothers.
It's got Darby. It's got Pet Shop. Pet Shop is so metal.
Fucking rad.
And then 5 just has like a very fun, good journey, even if the characters are, I don't know, they're deeper, but also miss more often than the part 3 characters are simpler, but they miss less. Like when they're doing something, you like it. And then we'll put 2 and 1, power gap between 2 and 1. I'll actually put 2 in that 3-5 group to elevate it a little bit because it's very solid. But like we mentioned, stands are above Hamon.
Poor 8. I mean, poor 1, not poor 8.
So to round it off, it's like Bradley's 3rd favorite, your 4th, and my 4th, right? I think that's what we settled on.
I think so.
I think so.
Actually, it might have been your 3rd, Joe. Yeah, no, it was your
my
3rd. So
it was my 3rd.
it's 3rd, 4th. That's actually better than I expected coming into here. Araki still got it, baby. What can we say?
Yeah. I mean, like, once again, I think part of it too, Bradley, and this is a bunch of assuming and kind of like just some interviewing things that people have said, but like I think Araki got very depressed during COVID time.
Yeah, worth mentioning that this is me and Joe's theory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so he got to the point where like he was just kind of done writing the story. Like he got tired of writing it because think about it, like your job's to sit indoors and like write this manga, right?
And you're already working crazy hours because it's manga.
Yeah. And then you don't even get the opportunity to like go and like you're sometime off, leave your house and go do
catch
something.
a movie, go to a park,
Yeah.
go investigate Italy and Hawaii for the next part.
Yeah, and I think like Araki is really big. Like he does this, but I think he's also really big in like seeing cultural stuff
Oh,
and
he's
like
super
doing.
cultural.
Yeah, like he likes seeing like art, like that's like he likes going and being like seeing how everything else in the world operates because it inspires his story. And I think because he was so locked in that he just kind of lost the motivation to keep going with this story, and so he kind of needed to close out the part.
You know, I could totally see it because like someone like me, I thrive under a lockdown because fuck going outside. But Araki really is like such a cultured dude. I feel like he likes to go out and see the world, see art, see things to inspire him.
And like it was like it's been nearly a whole year, even maybe a little bit more so since like part 8's finishing and like part 9 just starting. So like I can imagine Araki like going like, all right, I'm gonna take this time to like catch up on all the things that I wasn't able to do, and like it really jived.
Like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, we got a sense that part 9 would be coming in like 3 or 4 months. It took them almost a year, if I'm not mistaken. But like, I'm glad it did.
Yeah, part 8 finished on August 10th, 2021.
And it's February. Okay, so it was only like...
It was over a year. It was a...
Oh, wait, 2021? Oh my god, we're in 2023.
Yeah, we are.
Holy shit. Yeah. It totally felt like it was going to come in a couple of months. That's crazy.
Diablo erased the time, dude.
No, fucking...
Is that how the stand works?
No. Dude... Let's not get into... You were talking about... Oh, I didn't talk about JoJo reading comprehension. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah!
I just want to close that thought off. The reason we think that, Bradley, is because I believe the Rohan short, Joe, you read that one. It was like Hot Summer Martha, right?
Yeah.
Hot Summer Martha came out around the time part 8 finished. And in that thing, you told me that Araki is, or like Rohan is on edge because of COVID lockdowns, right? That was like a plot thread in that short. And, you know, Rohan reflects a lot of how Araki feels about life. So we're going to learn a lot about modern-day Araki and Jojolion, to say the least. But that's why I feel like it was him kind of like expressing his frustration. And you kind of understand the entirety of the Wonder of You arc was in lockdown. The last few chapters came out as lockdown was like easing up.
Yeah.
So you got it, like that entire arc was, I think he got cooped up and kind of just wanted to wrap it up.
I bet you one of the months he was supposed to have off, he was gonna go to Hawaii.
Totally. That lines up because he takes at least 1 month break every year.
And once again, this is just us based on like what we've read and kind of like the small little tidbits we get from him. But like Araki is an author that really like whatever he is experiencing gets really translated into his work.
Oh,
whatever Snapple can.
Yeah, whatever Snapple can he read last is the next chapter. And one step,
for good and for bad.
One step more, like Araki has never been a quitter in any of the other parts. Like even when he pulls out the Deus Ex Machina, you have it in your mind that it's like, well, okay, at least he like committed to this idea multiple weeks, like multiple chapters prior. Like he knew he would end it with the time stop. So, but he like fleshed out the final arc regardless leading up to it. But it felt like he just kind of like either wrapped it up, or what me and Joe have been hoping, that even with Rohan showing up in part 9, we're still hoping it connects to 8 somehow and like we get some resolution to Josuke. But
I'm still holding out hope.
I'm still holding out hope.
Anyways,
reading comprehension with JoJo's. To shorten my theory up, it is a reverse bell curve. And 90% of the JoJo reader. So hold on. There's the people who don't read and don't understand JoJo's.
Yeah.
And then the more you read, the more you understand JoJo's. And that's like part of the bell curve. And like Bradley was mentioning, a lot of people just clearly do not read the text of the chapters. But then you hit the end of the bell curve where you've read a lot of JoJo's and you've come back to not understanding it because now you can see that the explanation, you read it completely and it makes less sense now. And my example for this is stuff like King Crimson, where people were like, I don't get it, and then it's like because they just were not reading the time skip like mechanics, and then people who did read into it, they're like, no, Diavolo can break time and kill Trish and kidnap Trish in the time freeze because it's fated to happen. Even if he wasn't there, she was gonna get kidnapped. But then you read into that a little more, and it's like, wait. If Trish was destined to get kidnapped on that elevator, and that's why he skipped time and kidnapped her during the skip time, that also implies that Bruno was fated to stand there like an idiot and not realize that Trish got kidnapped. Because, like, if the fated timeline is they're standing in the elevator holding hands, Diavolo breaks through the top and kidnaps Trish and cuts off her hand, and then, logically, Bruno would listen to that, would hear that, turn around, and at least call out Sticky Fingers to, like, try to hit Diavolo. He wouldn't do it because it's fated not to happen. But that's not how it's portrayed. It's like, okay, I skipped time, and Bruno's still standing there not realizing that Trish is kidnapped, even though destiny would be that he would turn around at least and have it stand out and not realize why. I don't know if that explanation made sense, but basically the fated events do not line up with how the time skip works. Long story short, sometimes the time skip is just a time stop, and people try to rationalize it and make sense. It's like, no, Araki just cheated a couple of times and made the power not work if you actually get into it.
Here's my trick to enjoying JoJo's, because it used to piss me off a lot more back when I was reading like part 5 and 6. I'd be like, this shit doesn't make sense. Like, how do you explain this stand? And I really fucking enjoy it now. And I think the difference is, if you're trying to make JoJo's make sense, you're fighting a losing battle and you're going to be disappointed. Now I just focus on the themes. Like, what's the story he's trying to tell? And holy shit, I love it so much more.
And he's so good at that. And it's like, me and Joe have the running theory, or like joke, where it's like, well, we have to do half of Araki's job where we try to figure out what the fuck he meant. And that's like a cute, like, tongue-in-cheek. Like, I still love him as an author. But then, like, the intellectuals is like, well, actually, you didn't read clearly. I read, and here's the explanation. My guy, if you read a little more, you'd see that your explanation doesn't make sense. Another example is the heavy weather arc, where Poochie says that the snails are happening, and then in the very next panel, he says that the snails are not actually happening. You, like, flip a page, and he literally contradicts himself. And people will, like, point out to one of the panels, like, guys, he says it right here. It's like, hey, did you read the next panel where he contradicts himself? Maybe it's a translation issue, but that's what we're reading off of.
That's one thing that fucking killed me in part 6, is when it was describing Jolene's stand, and it's like, she can manipulate any part of her body except her heart. And then I turned the page, and she manipulates her heart.
But Bradley, D4C can't take small things like money into the other world.
Oh my god, that's even worse, honestly.
That was crazy. That might be the worst ever.
I think that's even worse.
Oh my god, because it's the same chapter. At least with the Jolene thing, it was next week, so maybe Araki forgot over a week. That was like the notes of the same chapter, and then, like, I don't even know, dude. But anyways, Bradley, please close us out with any closing thought you might have. This was very fun, guys. I love talking to you.
Dude, closing thoughts. I don't know. It was kind of really cool to see this alternate continuity for Morio, even if it's like a different geographic Morio.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is.
Probably.
So I don't know. We got to see Joseph at the end of this part. I kind of want to. I don't know. I just kind of can't wait to see what we're going to see in part 9, if we're going to see old characters or like people we haven't seen in this continuity yet.
Will he finally break through the 4th paradimensional wall and we start exploring other JoJo lands? Who knows?
Dude, what if it is a oh my god, it's going to be a multiverse story.
The D4C is going to be like, hey kids.
No, but even like it's going to be like
Rohan can write in, I can visit other
different
worlds.
versions of Rohan and Jodio, and then we start getting Giorno, Giovanna, and Johnny Joestars, and like
it's Eyes of Heaven.
It's gonna be Eyes of Heaven. That's why it's called the JoJo Lands.
But they kill the final villain by doing a 9-way combo attack with all the JoJos, and it goes in the next video game.
Peak fiction.
That would be fiction.
It's fantastic. But yeah, like
10 out of 10.
It's not like I think literally the only part where there is 0 returning. No, that's not even true. Every single part has a returning character. So it's like, except 7. That would be the only one.
But you know,
but it's got cameo side characters, right? And then in 8 there's Lucy and Johnny. So it's like, So it's like, someone from 8 has to return. and surely we're gonna get like that, at least the answer to what became of Holly. Come on, man.
I need that. That's my biggest hope for Part 9, and she's not even a Part 9 character.
Honestly, if we get that, I think Part 8 goes above 6, and maybe even it might become my favorite at that point. Because like, I could see like, if Araki didn't quit and instead said, "Hey, I'll fight this battle in the next part," he like delayed it by it's like, "Hey, I'm actually gonna wrap this up later. Let's wrap this up now." I'm like, cool. You know what? I can respect that and I get it. But if he just like gonna quit on the mystery and like, I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a bummer.
Dude, 15 years from now when Part 9's done, we're just gonna be like, God damn it. No Holly.
But that's why we do this. That's the whole point of this whole thing we did. It's just to put our feelings on paper.
Yep.
That's what we do, baby. And I'm hoping Part 9 is the last one. As much as I love JoJo's, I want this man to rest and not, because like these parts are long. They've been long.
Yeah.
So I need him to not
Hopefully
overwork himself again.
Part 9 hopefully might not be as long, but we'll see what happens.
If it's not as long, I'll go for a 10. I mean, come on. I just want another 10 years of JoJo. That's all I'm saying.
Baby.
A decade of JoJo's, baby. Never-ending story. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. And hey, we're not doing JoJo Lands today, but if you like this conversation we had and you liked hanging out and talking JoJo's, comment below what you think about some of the points that we brought up. We will be talking about JoJo Lands in a couple of days at the earliest, because I'm
very excited.
We want to get to that before Chapter 3 comes out.
Oh, I was going to say it's either we're going to talk about when Chapter 3 comes out or just before. So it's like no in between.
Dude, what about Chapter 3? Did y'all ever do live reads for Jojolion?
Oh, we did a couple
of times. Not all the time, but we did a couple chapters. It was fun. We should do a couple. It was fun. When things are spicing up, we should do one. I thought it was hilarious when we did do them, by the way.
Yeah, it was a good time. And then it made great content because we got 2 videos out of the whole thing.
I know. The live read and then the post. Those were good. That's like the small growth our channel's ever had. Were like those videos. So I was thinking we would talk about it maybe like Friday, Monday, something like that. So we don't have to wait till Chapter 3. But I'll see how you guys are feeling.
That's what I'm thinking.
This can go off. Okay, thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Peace.